This is too much fun, Dean, and now I got to sing for my supper, huh?
The stragglers sit down.
Oh, yeah.
I got Director for the Southern California section of SAE. Quick little update on some of the board members we've got here. Dr. Blackman has a good excuse for not being here. He's with the Cal State Los Angeles Baja SAE team up in Oregon. So that's a perfect excuse. Our secretary, Emily Sharp, has great news. She's now working for Suzuki Motorcycles. So we finally have a two-wheel representative on the board, which is fantastic. Yeah. Mike Moyer back here is our treasurer, key role in any volunteer organization to make sure that we get our money from SAE headquarters and pay for things that we do. John Steiner, I was hoping to make it here. He could not. I think he was in Los Angeles. He's our communications director. Vanessa Belk's doing events. And then Ben Highfield and Louise Moore have a good excuse for not being here because their office is in Oxnard, which is about, on a good day, 2-hour drive here. So most days probably 3.5. So, but we're always looking for additional volunteers who'd like to get involved. The 3 principal committees, the groups who set up meetings and tours. Communications is always a challenge because email alone is not enough. So we need to do a lot more in terms of social media and other channels. And then just student activities. We've had a pretty lively start of the year. Thanks to the University of San Diego, we had a display at the San Diego Auto Show. We had a SEMA panel discussion here. February, we teamed up with a lot of other partners talking about automotive education and workforce development. And then March, we did an amazing event out at the SEMA Garage, 500 plus students from over 3 dozen schools and over a dozen hiring companies. And it wasn't just our local schools. We had 36 students drive down from Sacramento, which was a great trip for them because 3 of them will be interning with Honda Racing this summer for connections they made there. So a lot of cool stuff. Thanks to TJ Keon, we had a fun meeting talking about Spec P71 racing. That was a fun one. And then April, we did a lot of things related to the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. We teamed up here with WIMNA, SWE, and Motor Press Guild, and we had engineers and business folks from both Bridgestone Firestone Racing and Honda. Had 150 people for that one. So that was a great, in terms of partnering, we can get a greater turnout. And then we teamed up with our friends at Stand 21 to talk about motorsport safety. We had our student display there this year again. When we first did that, told the students we don't want this as charity. We need to help provide value to the race, and we help promote ticket sales to a younger demographic. So the race organizers are very happy to give us the display space. Looking ahead, this Saturday, if anyone's available, I would encourage you to go to Saddleback College's new Tustin campus, right by the blimp hangars. They've got an EV challenge for high school kids. So Wesley, for Caltech, if you want to go recruit some students from high school who already have done electric vehicles, great place to go recruit. So now the high school students are becoming much more prepped for working on a Formula SAE car. And then we're lining up some other things. Hope in August, we've got 2 engineers coming over from Formula One. And it's not that I convinced the team to send them over. They're both from Southern California. They're coming over to visit family. So we're going to get some current information of what it's like to work in Formula One. But some other cool ones. And our speaker will talk a little bit more in depth. We got some events in Southern California that are SAE International in scope, the Automated Transportation Symposium, the Brake Colloquium, and the OBD Conference. And someone needs to explain to me what the difference is between a symposium, a conference, and a colloquium. They all kind of sound the same, but some good things here in our backyard. Just a fun little slide. This is something I always show the students when I give a talk. Can anyone speculate on the common thread between all of these vehicles? No one wants to take a guess on that? Usually get the question, aerodynamics is, well, yeah, but maybe not the Kia Soul. That one's not the aerodynamic.
They'll have
Then
internal
I throw in
combustion
all of
engines.
these vehicles also have the same characteristic. Every one of them was either designed or built in Southern California.
There you go.
So we've got a lot of amazing stuff here. Half the Apollo program was built in Southern California. And now we've got the new Space Beach in Long Beach. We just went over to Jet Zero this afternoon. There's some really cool stuff. And those of you who don't know how many schools we got, we now have 19 student chapters in Southern California. And leading it, we got Cal Poly Pomona and UC Irvine, who are building formula combustion, formula electric, Baja, and aero design. So we've got over 30 teams across all the schools. So if anyone wants to volunteer, Zaya, we've got one of the SpaceX engineers, Step Up, is helping Loyola Marymount for our team, which is brand new. So we really appreciate that type of volunteerism. And that's all I had to show. And the last one here is on the Vital Link. I'll have the flyers, but let me switch over. Actually, I want to go back. Lost it here. I had Bob's bio on here. I guess this Bob Ireland. I can remember most of it though. I met Bob in 2019 at the SAE Contributor of the Year deal, where he was named Contributor of the Year. But he's also been on the board of directors.
And you were the next year, right?
Yeah. Well,
there's that.
But he started his career, graduate engineering degree from Princeton, and then 5 years you bounced around some different companies, and then settled into a really long-standing career in the airline industry. So not just how to design the planes, but from the customer standpoint, what does the customer need? Then Airlines for America, but all along volunteerism with SAE, but also interest supporting music. I looked up supporting the symphony in Colorado.
Yep, all that. Yep.
But here again, I think a lot of this comes down to people who volunteer. Even if you come to the end of one volunteer opportunity, you find something else. And it says a lot, I think, about the character of the person. And we're lucky to have Bob come in there and give us a talk. Let me cue up your slide.
Okay.
But, there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob Ireland.
So there was that picture was up on the screen a little while ago, and I was looking at that and I was thinking, that's back when he had a job. But I retired from the airline industry, and most recently, as Dean said, from Airlines for America, which is the trade association for the airlines in DC. Retired last summer. Dean, I'm going to move you aside here a little bit, if you don't mind. So anyway, sections. I'm just thrilled to be here, because the sections of SAE are the heartbeat of the grassroots membership involvement with SAE. And we've got a number of sections that are real superstars. Southern California is absolutely one of them. Charlotte, Detroit, big automotive places, as you might expect. I think the one that is always baffles people a little bit is, Boeing builds airplanes up in Seattle, and we've got a section up there, mostly attended by people from PACCAR, which is Peterbilt trucks, that sort of thing. So, the automotive industry has embraced the section side, I think, probably more than some of the others. But I always like to start out with a little bit of a story first. And that is, I'd ask each one of you to think, do you know of a person who got you into what you're doing now, or got you interested when you were even a little kid? in what you're doing now. And the story I tell with that is that when I was a little boy, a wee lad in Seattle, a neighbor worked for the Boeing company, and he was working on the Minuteman ICBM. That takes you back some. So on May 1st, 1961, they had their first test flight of the Minuteman, and he brought my brother and I each a little chip of charred concrete from the launch pad of that missile. And I still have it today. It's, we have those people. So what my charge to all of you is, think of that person. Think of that person that got you into this, and you know what the punchline is? Be that person. Go off and do the same thing now. With wherever you are in your career, somebody's going to be interested in what you're doing, and you don't know the impact that it's going to have. So I invite you to just think about that and keep it in your back. Coming to talk at a section, I knew that I was going to be talking to a lot of people who really know their shit. Excuse me. So I asked SAE to help me out with the remarks. So it'll look like I'm reading a bit, and I am, but I don't want to miss anything. So I want to start by thanking the section here, and particularly to Dean, for inviting me to be here. We do have a bit of a past together, and I know we can depend on each other to be real proponents for what SAE is doing and all that. So it's a pleasure to be here with this dynamic place. So if I could get the next slide up, please. Oh, do I have a clicker? Oh, I have to do that. I can do that. Yeah. It's the down one. Okay. So Southern California has long been a center of innovation across aerospace, automotive, advanced manufacturing, and clean technology, as Dean said, with that group of things up there on that slide. As a child of the 60s, the one in the middle, Apollo, I definitely remember that. I was a space nerd when I was a kid. What's happening here is helping shape the future of technologies around the world. It's especially meaningful for me to be here as last year's president of SAE and part of the aviation community for the last few decades. And my talk here at Dean's invitation is largely going to be about the aviation side. I have great memories of when SAE had the World Aviation Congress, which is now called Aerotech, and they had it for many, many years down at the Long Beach Convention Center. A couple other locations around. I remember Anaheim in 1997, and within the last 5 or 6 years, I guess, they had it twice in Pasadena. So that's actually been a fixture of the Southern California landscape for a long time. And SAE has always been powered by members like yourselves, engineers, educators, volunteers who contribute their expertise to advance mobility knowledge and solutions. So the next slide, please. That's me. These slides aren't happening on the side. Oh, they are. Okay, great. So last year when I was SAE president, I like to go around to every place that I spoke, and you get a dose of it tonight as well, and use the catchphrase, SAE gets you there. And it's figurative and literal. Now, figuratively, all of you got here somehow tonight, and I'm guessing every one of you got here in some sort of mode of transportation that SAE does. Myself, I drove from my home up in near the California Nevada border, and I came down the hill in a plug-in electric vehicle, and I got into a nice fancy airplane that was built in Brazil by Embraer, and then came in a Tesla over here to the conference tonight. And I'll digress a moment about Brazil. I had the occasion last year to go down to Sao Paulo and visited the Embraer factory. You would not know any difference from that factory from going into a Boeing or an Airbus factory, but they're a long ways away. And this gets to the need of SAE to watch its international presence. I had a meeting with the CEO of Embraer while I was down there, and he said, they are staunch supporters of SAE. They volunteer on a lot of SAE committees, and he said, you know what? We're a long ways away. He said, what we do is we invest in our budget so that for all the committees and all the companies that we work with and suppliers, they actually think we're right next door. And that takes a huge commitment. And I think I really applaud that. And the SAE brand in Brazil is strong. They have Baja competitions. They have an annual conference, and it's really thriving down there. The other place that we have a lot of presence is in India. I have not had a chance to visit over there. Our current 2026 president, Carla Bello, does like to go to India, and I think she's dropped in on some of the automotive interests in Brazil. Excuse me, in India. So anyway, this has been my catchphrase. Simple message because it says a great deal about who we are. And I already talked about how you got here, but our standards support safety, quality, and innovation. Our events bring experts together. Our professional development helps people grow, and our student programs launch careers. For many of us, SAE has helped us get here professionally as well. If I asked you again, who's participated in the World in Motion program? Has that been around long enough that some of you, and I don't mean to be rude about age, but that's the elementary school programs that are in classrooms, probably not too many here. How about Baja or any of the other competitions, the college competitions that SAE does? Yeah, getting a few there. Yeah, these experiences, and starting at the elementary school level, concentrating on STEM, builds confidence, they create connections, and they inspire careers. And often are the first steps to a much larger career. And I think some of you are probably going to nod about that one. We connect industries that increasingly share technology and challenges. And nowhere is it more clear, no offense for this, nowhere is it more clear than in aerospace. SAE is helping advance innovation in areas like hybrid and electric propulsion, advanced materials, next generation aircraft architectures, et cetera. Bring up the next slide. Okay. Many of you see a rapid emergence in advanced air mobility, and this is going to be your air taxis and such that could take you to the airports that are vertical takeoff and landing. They're often, or they're almost all electrically propelled now. I think Joby did some certification work that was publicized just this past week. So none of this is any longer theoretical. It's coming. It's going to happen. Regulators have moved from establishing frameworks to issuing airworthiness criteria and special conditions. They're actually telling manufacturers now how to do it, how to get it done. It marks a transition toward active certification and operational readiness. Creates a very real need for industry consensus standards, and that is the heart of SAE. Through efforts like SAE's Advanced Air Mobility Steering Group, we're bringing together industry and government to help define the standards that will support certification, regulatory compliance, and ultimately safe, scalable operations. You're going to be riding in these things one day. SAE technical committees are actively working in areas like system safety, electric propulsion, battery performance, and reliability. These critical building blocks for moving these aircraft from development into everyday use. I'd stop there on the safety one particularly. As you all know, as people who travel by air, there is no tolerance for a lack of safety in flight. You cannot have an accident. It's too highly publicized when it happens, and it's always a tragedy because it usually involves many casualties all at once. So the air industry has to be really careful about safety, and we appreciate all the work that SAE committees do, particularly in the safety area. And that's not to downplay in any way what's done in the automotive area as well with crash safety and the aspects of that. So it was part of my job title at my last job, so I digress whenever I get on the safety topic. So groups like our G35 committee focus on modeling, simulation, and training for emerging aviation technologies. And they're helping to define how these new aircraft are tested, validated, and ultimately are going to be brought into service. Next one. So we're also bringing industry together through our events. And I put a couple of them up there. Aerotech and Aviation Carbon. Aerotech is going to convene this time in Palm Beach, first week of June, when we're going to have our SAE Board of Directors will be down there for their meeting also. And for those who don't know Sue Bai, Sue is one of our board members as well from Honda, and we're really happy to have Sue here tonight. It's always good to have a familiar face in the crowd. So thank you. So there's the Aviation Carbon one that's in November in London, and Aerotech in West Palm Beach. Everything from certification pathways for new aircraft types to scaling sustainable aviation, the beginning of increasingly autonomous systems into the aerospace system. How are you going to feel when you get into a vertical takeoff air taxi to come to the airport? There's no pilot. It's going to happen. Many of the advancements happening in aerospace are happening in ground vehicles as well, and that's where we tie this together. Lightweight materials, electrified and autonomous systems, cybersecurity, advanced manufacturing, and predictive maintenance. All those are a meld of both of those of our ground vehicles as well as our vehicles in the air, and the ones that are out there chewing up crops. And that's the commercial vehicle side. The John Deeres of the world, highly automated these days and satellite driven often when they're out in their fields. So the technologies are really going across all of SAE's sectors. These are no longer separate conversations. They're shared conversations in all of the mobility sectors. So it's where SAE plays a critical role. Bingo. SAE standards are the center of technologies for electrification, autonomy, additive manufacturing that span automotive, aerospace, and the commercial vehicle sectors. We create common standards with a library of more than 40,000 global standards now that enable safety, quality, and interoperability. Many of these are shared across sectors. For example, aerospace and ground vehicle experts are working together to develop several software reliability and integrated vehicle health management standards. Fancy term for predictive maintenance, really. It boils down to it. Integrated vehicle health management standards for us in the aerospace industry began with monitoring of vibrations of jet engines. One of our past SAE presidents, a guy by the name of Richard Greaves, invented some of the first monitoring systems for engine vibration. And when a jet engine starts to vibrate, nobody's happy, especially all those really fast-moving components inside the jet engine. So it's important to monitor that. And it's moved into other areas. I mean, things as simple as tire pressure monitoring, which we share with the automotive industry, and many other aspects that the more advanced ones now are getting into actually putting sensors within additive manufactured components or composite parts of the structure to start looking at whether that structure is starting to fail by having a sensor embedded in the structure itself. So it's really advancing. Non-destructive testing and non-destructive monitoring of maintenance condition is definitely an advancing field. We also have helped professionals learn new skills. There are 300 professional development courses at SAE, helping engineers and technical leaders advance their knowledge in areas like electrification, system engineering, safety, and many others that translate across the sectors. All that whole same set of stuff. We're helping people build their careers as well. And then with thousands of technical committee meetings, section meetings, and engineering events focused on local insight, major global gatherings like WCX, which is the automotive one you're all familiar with, Aerotech, Comvec is the commercial vehicle one in September. It always happens in Chicago. These are the places where collaboration turns into standards and best practices and real world solutions. Brings us back to Southern California. Few regions are better positioned to lead the future. I've mentioned that before, with strengths in aerospace, defense, software, automotive technology, clean transportation. The Southern California section is uniquely positioned to help these technologies flourish. So that's why we're proud to bring several major events to Southern California this year, including Automated Transportation Symposium in San Diego. What is a symposium, Dean? Did you figure it out?
No.
No? It sounds more highfalutin than a committee meeting. Yeah. Get that for it. Onboard Diagnostics Conference in Long Beach, and the Brake Colloquium, in Palm Desert. What's better, a colloquium or a symposium? We love names. Anyway, they all have, the subject matter is what's important. And I hope that all of you can have a chance to dabble in all those areas. So why am I sharing all this tonight? Because there are opportunities to get involved, going back to that story I told at the beginning. Get into it yourselves. SAE is strongest when the local sections are strong. Strong sections connect people, they develop talent, and they create energy, which leads to the second part of our message, which is make your next move. SAE standards committees are always looking for new members. It's a no cost to join, and the only requirement is to have a passion for the industry. And I would digress to another story of how I got involved with SAE back in 1984. At that time, there were a series of accidents in airplanes from convective wind shear. In other words, convective air movement near thunderstorms. A lot of underpowered airplanes out there at the time. The 727, being 3-engine, had less stringent takeoff requirements, which made it kind of an underpowered airplane. So a whole string of accidents with that airplane. So SAE was involved in putting a standard together for instrumentation in the cockpit to help the pilots recognize wind shear and fly safely out of it. So fast forward, we had a committee going. My boss, who was at the time the director of flight safety at United Airlines, was unable to make it to the meeting one day. So he looked at the little engineer in the corner. He said, "Why don't you go to this meeting for me, Bob? Why don't you just go to that meeting?" So I walked into the meeting room, sat down, and realized he was the chairman of the committee. Baptism by fire. But what was cool, and what people who volunteer for SAE find, is the caliber of experts they might find around themselves. In that room, I found the chief development test pilot for the Concorde, the head of all flight test for Pan American World Airways at the time, a guy named Paul Roich, and a whole group of guys who were just, they were the best in their field, and there they were helping to solve these problems. And that's the sort of thing you can run into in SAE committees and really get a huge educational experience out of it, and also just a huge feeling of camaraderie with people that are just really making important things happen. So anyway, from the local section side, here you are, and we want to get more people in here, which goes to my initial story about tell about what you're doing, get people in. This section alone hosts more than a dozen events each year. We've seen them up on the screen, from student showcases with more than 500 students participating to panels featuring industry leaders like Honda and Firestone. And these are real opportunities to connect, learn, and to stay current. While you're at it, bring a colleague. Offer to share your expertise as a speaker or host a section at your facility. In my role last year, I asked at various events the more emerging professionals, the younger ones, which is it's a tough spot for SAE. It's tough to get people interested in being a part of SAE immediately after college, because you've been in all the college design series and that sort of thing, but you aren't yet ready to write standards. That doesn't happen until a few years into a career. So those are the places where a section can come in and provide the opportunities for networking and learning and getting to know people that will benefit you through your entire career. So I asked people, I said, how do you want that presented? And I expected to hear, as a fallout of the COVID era, I expected to hear, we want to do a lot of stuff and virtual's great. That is not what I heard. What I heard was, we want to do a lot of stuff and we want to do it face-to-face. We want to have meetings like this one. We want to talk to people face-to-face, having a chance to socialize as well as swap stories, as well as to learn technical stuff. So all hail to the Southern California section here in providing these kind of opportunities. It's so important. So because all these steps create momentum, and momentum creates community, and community creates innovation. That's where we get it from. So let us use this moment to build on the strength of the section, deepen connections, ensure Southern California remains a leader in engineering progress for years to come, get more of your friends to come. And I want to thank you for your time, thank you for your leadership, and thank you for everything you do to advance mobility.
Are there any questions from the audience?
Yeah.
And we've got two SAE International staffers. Kara, do you want to give an update or anything, just new thing from SAE? And Kara, probably put her on the spot. She's brand new to SAE. She's been 8 months now, so she's still bringing from the fire.
What I'd like to, I think one thing I want to talk about just a little bit more, just kind of off the cuff, is for those of you that are, I almost did it. Not going to do that. What's the progress you can make as an SAE volunteer? And I told a story when I started, when I was on that committee, but I went from that committee then to, chairing more subcommittees, and about a decade later, had an opportunity to once again substitute from somebody who was on the board, and I found myself in 1999 in a board meeting with yet another group of incredible experts. and stuck around on the board for most of the next 25 years, off and on. And that's where I came through to be SAE president. But that's the progression you can make if you choose. You can get into these leadership positions that actually learn how the sausage is made, the standards and stuff, and how we run a not-for-profit organization to keep that all together and keep feeding the industry with the new standards. So you have literally a volunteer career path that can parallel your professional career path. And anyone who has an interest in that, I would highly encourage it. Anything else? Any questions I can answer? Yes. Or you go. You first. All right.
When it comes to modern air mobility in the future, like air taxis, will the requirements for SAE for like high energy dense batteries change over time, or is the current workflow going to reduce?
Yeah, and the battery situation is the big problem with doing electric motors for airplanes, because they have to sit for a certain period of time to charge and all, and that's literally taking your factory out of service. So most of what I've heard, and I'm just kind of what I've heard stuff on this, I'm not an expert in that area, has been that it's going to be shorter range operations, and that's why the air taxis will work very well. Shorter range, like commuter flights, that sort of thing can adapt as well. But it's still a problem. The charging time is going to be the problem, because as I said, it's taken the factory out of service. So I'm really old-fashioned in this one. This is Bob Ireland talking. I think it's really important that we get electrification of vehicles and all the ground services the maximum we possibly can, because it remains that fossil fuels have a really high energy content and are really going to continue to be really important to aviation. So we are a big user of fossil fuel, no question of that, but it's not going to go away for like long-range flying. Yes, sir.
Kind of a follow-on, maybe comment and then question on your views, piggybacking off this gentleman's over here, eVTOL air taxi. Years ago, I do high-speed skinny bits, right? And we're used to it anyway. And I've worked with some of the names that you mentioned, and to the point of battery electrification, shorter hops, the Jobies and the Archers and whoever in the world are looking at battery technology. For longer, they are engaging. They have for the past 6 or 7 years, even though they haven't really highlighted it, hydrogen fuel cell, right?
Yep.
For the longer stints because of essentially the rocket equation. But I'm curious your perspective from being in the industry, how you see new players like Joby, like Archer, like Vivid, that exists, versus with their distributed power systems versus maybe a kind of a legacy player like Robinson with a single shaft solution.
It's an interesting question. Yeah, obviously the people we're seeing out there with the air taxis now are putting lots of motors on the airplanes. And it's an efficiency of the motor standpoint. You want to get the most energy into the air, and you don't want to waste a lot of it in mechanical frictions and movings and that sort of thing. So that's part of why they're doing that. It's also from a certification standpoint of reliability. When engines fail, if you've got 8 engines on the thing and you lose one, it's not so bad. If you've got 1 engine, got to think about that a little harder. But it's going to get better. And one of the examples that I used last year at Aerotech, our keynote speaker was from a company in Australia that's building engines electric engines to put in airplanes. And their client that they're experimenting with is Harbour Air up in Vancouver. So the two of them kind of one-twoed on the keynote last year, and made a really good point from the certification standpoint, because FAA is extremely cautious. And for that reason that I mentioned earlier, safety is, there's nothing more dangerous than an airplane whose engine has gone out, for instance, and especially if you've got a bunch of people on it. So from a certification standpoint, Harbour Air was a perfect choice. If you know Harbour Air at all, they're seaplanes. FAA was willing to let them do much more intense flight testing work, because they knew that if something went wrong and the engine conked out, all the world's a runway. You can land in the water. So that's where we kind of have to edge the FAA along at certifying these new systems and accepting, I wouldn't say accepting risk as much as testing to the point of being comfortable with the reliability. And so that all goes into what you're looking at. Is that getting to the core of what you're after?
Sorry?
Is that getting to the core of your question, I hope?
Yeah, I've thought about this for many years, and now as more of an observer in the industry. And I know people in all of the spaces, and it seems the different challenges that each face, certainly as you mentioned, with the distributed power system, one engine goes out and you don't have to worry about falling out of the sky because your single shaft unit is
right.
work. But what I'm curious about from a fatigue and cyclic perspective, and mostly this is kind of the commercial aspect, because I remember one CEO said to me years ago, he's like, we're going to make an Uber of the skies. And I'm like, okay, you got six rotors, six electric motors.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have maintenance up to wazoo. How are you possibly going to make that cost effective?
Yeah.
And so I'm always kind of interested in the balance of the backup nature of the multiple power units versus all the maintenance of all of the spinning bits on that. That'd be an interesting.
Yeah, well, it's of course the same thing we know from Tesla and some of the electric cars. The electric motors have a lot fewer moving parts, so they can be more reliable in that sense. I think what's going to be interesting to watch shake out is the different manufacturers. And we are in a situation, and I don't know all the names off the top of my head, but I certainly, Joby for one, the three major US airlines, Delta, United, American, are each in partnership with a different one of those eVTOL potential air taxi manufacturers. And I think that's great. We're going to find out whose designs work best. We're going to find out how the maintenance training can go across the companies and the lessons that'll be learned. And I think it's great. We're going to learn lessons from all of them because they're all going to have big business. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Will this become something that the average Joe will be able to take advantage of?
That's the plan.
Really, really expensive.
Well,
I mean,
as with any new technology, it gets cheaper when people use it.
What's that?
It gets cheaper when people use it.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I'm trying to base it on something in real life. Like you can go from the airport in New York, right, to a skyscraper in downtown.
Yep.
New York.
I think that's what Joby is doing first,
that's
right?
Kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know the cost on something like that in real terms now.
Mm-hmm.
And do people still do it?
Actually, they stopped doing that after one of the helicopters crashed on top of the MetLife building. Was the Pan Am building back in the day? But that's exactly what Joby is looking at reinventing and getting back to. And it gets partly to the reliability thing. But from a cost standpoint, if we fast forward to that question I asked a little while ago, how do you feel about not having a pilot on board? Huge cost savings. How do you feel about not burning a lot of fossil fuel every time that thing takes off? Huge cost savings. So there is definitely, if you think about it, a possibility. It can be a very economical thing. Just depends on where they decide.
Use
for the
driverless driving and
Waymo of the sky.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. I took my first Waymo ride in Orlando a couple of weeks ago. It took 3 times before it actually stopped at the right place to pick me up. But after that, it's a wonderful ride. And I hope I'm not talking out of school there and hurting anybody's feelings in here, but I actually liked it a lot. My fiance, not so much, but I liked it a lot. Yes.
A bit more of a fun one. If you were to choose a experimental aircraft to come to fruition, which one would you choose?
Oh, wow.
For me personally, it's the YF-23.
I think the one that I'm paying attention to the most, and it's not flown yet, so it will be experimental when it does, is the SST. And why am I forgetting their name right now? It's because I'm an old guy. But their headquarters is in Centennial, Colorado, and they're the one that United Airlines has already put a lot of money. Who is it? Boom. Thank you very much. I'm sorry. I should have Sonic Boom. Why do I ever forget that? But that's the one I really want to see that happen. Concorde was a cool idea. It was before its time, but it proved that people who have the money will do it. Boom and with technologies nowadays will probably make more efficient aircraft, and it may be something that more people can afford. I hope so. I want to see that. Thanks for the question. Yes, sir.
You think the rise in like hypersonic commercial aircraft are going to make a difference in the future, or will we mostly for the rich who can purchase those tickets?
Well, I think it's going to be a cost versus benefit situation, and it's the same thing with the Concorde. It was way overpriced. Whether the speed is affordable to everybody when something like Boom gets out there remains to be seen. What's it going to be worth to get there? We've been in a stasis now for a long time when 750 miles an hour is about enough. You know, when's that going to change? It's going to change when more people have access and affordability to go farther faster. All right, it's been a real pleasure to be here. I really appreciate this. Thank you.
Do a quick zoom shot. So would everybody
sure.
in the audience
Actually, before,
Come
hang on.
up here.
Crystal,
He's-
SAE Baja SAE team a few years ago. So,
It was kind of an impromptu, invitation to come up and speak. I work for the Aerospace Corp. We are looking right now. I work in the flight system, like flight software department. So we're looking for people who have strong software skills and experience, maybe in the aerospace, maybe in the automotive industry. But definitely, if you have a network that you can share. I have 2 requisitions open. One is for a member of technical staff. Another one is for a senior member of technical staff. And then my second requisition is for an engineering specialist. So if you have someone that you know who has really strong software skills and maybe a little bit of experience, with simulation work, definitely send them my way. Get in touch with me. I'm friendly. I was a student at Cal State LA in the Baja team, and so that's how I got involved with SAE. I was a member of the SoCal section after I graduated, so I was working with Dean for a little bit. And then I bought a house and had a baby, so I've been out of the extracurriculars, if you will, for a little bit. So, I'm still looking to hire, so definitely get in touch with me. I'm open to network. I'm open to hire. So yeah, send your applicants my way. I also have a couple other managers in my department who also have similar requisitions, and we're trying to fill like 8 positions right now. So definitely, share it with your network if you know people in software and you're not a software person yourself. So thank you.
go ahead. Dick, should I just make you want to talk about the one you mentioned? So this is, given the current economy, anything we can make announcements for opportunities is a good thing. So Dick?
I'm cheating a bit because I don't work for this company, but I've worked with the guy that's VP of engineering quite a bit. His name is Dr. Ed Lovelace. The company is Ampere. They're at the Long Beach airport, and they're doing a hybrid electric vehicle. And so they're looking for mechanical engineers to help them with integration and certification of their propulsion system. You can find Ampere on the web without any problem. It's just AMP, AIR with an E on the end, and you'll see the announcement for help.
So unless anyone else has a hiring announcement, now, Miles, you can do your photo. And thank you for coming, and look for emails on our events for June, July, and through the summer. And if you want to go Saturday at the Tustin campus of Saddleback College, it should be a really cool event. So thank you.